Good morning, children. Hope you are safe and fine. Today we'll do lesson number 27, the Bremen Town Musicians. Bremen is the name of a town, and musicians are a group of people who sing and play musical instruments in a band. Let's start reading the story. Once there was a donkey. Donkey means gadha, who had worked long and hard for his master. Now he had grown weak and could not do much work. So his master began to treat him unkindly. Unkindly means very badly. So this story starts with a donkey, and this donkey was very hard working and worked very hard for his master. Master is the owner, the person whose donkey he is. But the donkey had slowly grown old and weak, and because of this, he couldn't do the same work as he did before for his master. So his master was fed up of him and started treating him very badly. He even began to starve the donkey. Starve means not to give any food. So he even stopped giving the donkey food. He wanted to save the money he spent on the donkey's food. He used to not give the donkey food because the donkey used to not do any work. So he used to think, why should I spend my money on this donkey when he isn't doing anything for me? So the master used to leave the donkey all alone and hungry. In the end, the poor donkey left the house. So because of all this that was happening to him, the donkey left the master's house. He believed he still had a good, strong singing voice. So he decided to go to Bremen town and earn his living as a town musician. The donkey thought that he had a very lovely voice and used to sing very well. So he decided, I'm not going to stay any longer here and do any work. Let's go to this town called Bremen town and sing songs over there and earn a living. Earn a living means make some money so that you can buy food and other things you need to live. And that's why the donkey left his master's house and started on his way to Bremen town to become a musician. On the way, he met an old dog. So as he was walking to Bremen town, he met an old dog. He too had been kicked out of the house by a cruel master. The dog was afraid. How will I earn my bread? He said. So even this dog, because he had become old, his master had thrown him out of the house. So even he didn't have house or food to eat. So he was worried. How will I get my food? How will I survive? Why? You have a voice as good as mine, said the donkey. Let us both go to Bremen and sing for the townspeople. We shall be well paid there. So the two companions went on together. Looking at the dog frightened, the donkey told him, You also have a lovely voice. You too sing well. Why don't you join me? Both of us will go to Bremen town. We will sing for the people of that town and make money so that we can survive. So both of them decided to go together, and they started walking ahead. Suddenly, they heard a cat mewing sadly with tears in his voice. "Why are you crying?" they asked. So, as the donkey and the old dog started walking further to Bremen town, on the way they heard a cat crying, and the cat had tears in his voice. They asked the cat, "What happened? Why are you crying?" "How can I be happy knowing that my mistress is going to drown me? I am old and would only like to sit by the fire and sleep. I cannot catch mice as I did before, so my mistress does not need me anymore. Where am I to go?" So why was the cat crying? He was crying because even he had become old, and his mistress is the lady whose cat he was. She was fed up of him because he used to only sit and sleep by the fire. He never helped her to catch mice as he did before. So because he was of no use to the mistress, she wanted to drown him. Drown him means throw him in the water and kill him. So the cat was sad and said, "Now where will I go?" Then the donkey and the dog say, "Come with us to Bremen." So they are also inviting the cat to come along. "You have a sweet voice and you know night music. You too can be a town musician," said the donkey. So the donkey tells the cat, "Even you have a sweet voice. You can sing too. So you can also join us as we go to Bremen town and become musicians." So now the donkey, the dog and the cat decide to go to Bremen town. Now the three traveled together for some time till they came upon a farmyard. So they were traveling together when they came near a huge farm area. There they heard a cock's loud wailing. Wailing means weeping or crying. So they could hear this cock crying loudly. When they made inquiries means to ask. So when they started asking the other animals, the cock told them, "My mistress is preparing a feast for her guests. She has told the cook to kill me for the feast. I am so frightened." So why was the cock weeping? Because even his mistress was going to kill him. She was organizing a big party for all her guests, and she had told her cook to kill that cock for that party. That's why the cock was very scared and crying. So the donkey invited the cock to join the band of musicians. So the donkey also invited the cock to join along with himself, the dog and the cat, and all together they would become a band of musicians. Bremen was still a long way away. On the way they had to cross a forest. As it began to get dark, the cock flew to the top of a tree to look around for shelter. So as they were walking, it had soon become night. It was getting dark and Bremen was still very far away. So they decided to look for a place where they could eat some food and rest for the night. But it was a forest and they couldn't see much. So the cock climbed on a tree and looked ahead, searching for shelter. He saw an old house among the trees. The four friends decided to rest there for the night. So when the cock climbed on the tree, he saw that there was an old house in the middle of the forest. He came down and told the other friends. So all of them decided that they would go to that house and take rest in the night. It was quite dark by the time they reached the house. So by the time they reached the house, it had become very dark. Through the window, they saw some robbers feasting at a large table inside. The animals had a clever idea. So when they looked through the window of that house, they saw that there were some robbers in that house and they were eating a lot of food on a large table in that house. They thought of an idea. Now let's see what was their idea. Why not give their first performance here? So they thought that why don't we give a performance of music to these robbers in the house? The robbers would be so pleased that they would happily share their food with the four musicians. They might even pay them for their performance. So why they wanted to perform for the robbers? Because they thought they will entertain the robbers and the robbers will be so happy to enjoy their music that they would give them food to eat and they would also pay them some money. So this was their idea. So the donkey placed his forelegs on the window ledge. So the donkey put his front legs on the ledge of the window, the base of the window. The dog jumped on the donkey's back. The dog jumped on the back of the donkey and stood. And the cat on the dog's. The cat jumped on the dog's back and stood there. And the cock perched on the cat's head. So the cock sat on the cat's head. So all of them were on top of each other. Then all at once and all together they began to sing their wonderful song. Once they were on each other, they started to sing their wonderful song for the robbers. Strangely, the music only frightened the robbers. So this music was not enjoyed by the robbers, but it was frightening for them. They only heard a terrible noise and saw the huge shadow cast by the animals together. So why were they frightened? Because the voices of the animals together was terrible. And because it was dark and the animals were outside the house, they couldn't see the animals. They could only see shadows of the animals. They sprang for the table and taking to their heels, disappeared into the forest. Sprang means jumped. So they jumped from the table and taking to their heels means standing on their feet. They ran into the forest because they were so scared. The four friends were puzzled. Puzzled means they were confused that why are the robbers running away from us? Didn't they enjoy our music? But they gladly sat down at the table and had a hearty dinner. But anyway, they were hungry and needed a house, so they didn't bother about the robbers running away. They sat on the table and enjoyed all the food. Then they put out the light, means they put off the light and went to sleep. The donkey on the straw in the yard. So the donkey slept on the straw in the yard. The cat slept near the stove. Stove means the gas. The dog on the doormat. So the dog slept near the door on the doormat. And the cock on the beam of the roof. So the cock slept on the pillar of the roof. So all of them slept at different places in the house. Now the robbers had not gone very far. They ran away, but they were still close to the house. Their leader saw the house become dark and quiet. Why it had become dark and quiet? Because the animals put off the light and were ready to sleep. So he sent a man to see if it was safe to go back to the house. So he sent one of the robbers to go back to the house and check if they could get back in. The robbers had kept all their stolen riches in that house and wanted them back. So whatever they had stolen was all in that house and they wanted their treasure back. That's why they sent one of them back to the house to check. The man went into the house on tiptoe. So the man quietly entered the house. Tiptoe means walking on your toes very slowly so that there is no sound. He saw the cat's eyes and thought they were burning coals. So he saw the cat's shining eyes and thought they were burning coals of fire. He tried to pick up one to light his candle. So he tried to pick it up to light his candle so he could look around the house. But actually, it was not a burning coal, it was the cat's eye. So it frightened the cat. The angry cat flew at him and scratched his face. This frightened the robber. He turned to run out of the house. So the cat was very frightened and angry. He jumped at the robber and scratched his face. The robber got scared and turned away to run away from the house. As he ran, the dog on the doormat bit his leg hard. So as he reached the door, the dog who was sleeping on the doormat bit the robber's leg. He stumbled. Stumbled means lost his balance and fell. And whom he fell on? He fell on the donkey. The donkey, woken up suddenly, gave the robber a smart kick with his hind legs. So when the robber fell on the donkey also got up and got angry. And hind legs means back legs. With his back legs, he kicked the robber hard. And all this while, the cock had been screaming, "Cock-a-doodle-doo," in his ears and flapping his wings around his head. The robber nearly died of fright. So after the donkey kicked the robber with his legs, the cock also was screaming loudly cock-a-doodle-doo in the robber's ears, and he was flapping his wings around his head. With all this happening, the robber was too scared. Somehow he got back to his gang. In a trembling voice, he told them that the house was full of monsters and deadly creatures who bit and scratched and kicked and attacked you in the dark. So the robber ran out of the house and went to his gang, and he told them that the house is not safe anymore. There are monsters and dangerous creatures who bite, scratch, and kick. So better not to go back into the house. So the robbers never went back to the house. The four friends found enough money in the house to live on there, in happiness and comfort. That is why the musicians never went to Bremen. So the robbers ran away from that house. Now all the money and treasure that was there was for the four animals. So they enjoyed their life. They got a house to stay in and enough money to buy food and live. That's why they never went forward to form their band of musicians in Bremen town. They enjoyed their happy life in this house in the forest. That was all in this story, children. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, one thing that you have to answer on your own from this story is you have to write an imaginary conversation. Imaginary conversation means you have to make up a conversation from your own thoughts among the four musicians living in the house in the forest. So you require four musicians: the donkey, dog, cat, and cock. All these four are staying in the house. Now you should try and make a conversation with all four of them speaking to each other. It could be anything that you wish to write, but each one has to have a conversation to speak on. Do this as your homework.